I just wanted to get your idea of, the warm-ups for both teams have taken slightly different routes. Pakistan have had a bit of a
Yes.
disaster against South Africa. India have done well against England. So how are they matching up, you think, for tomorrow's game?
Well, in terms of the warm-ups for India and for Pakistan ahead of their blockbuster clash, really I'm not sure the warm-ups count for an awful lot, particularly in terms of Pakistan, because we know they can blow hot and blow cold. But really and truly, in an India-Pakistan encounter, I think form goes out the window, doesn't it? And it all comes down to the 40 overs in the match. Now, in terms of India, of course, they've got all that 20-over experience through IPL, but they haven't played an awful lot of international 2020 cricket together. But they've looked pretty good in the warm-ups, haven't they? They've done a reasonable job. Pakistan, they've blown hot and blown cold in those warm-ups, but when all's said and done, I think it just comes down to whoever holds their nerve better. They've obviously played an absolutely cracking match here in Bangladesh already in the Asia Cup, which was won in the last over by Pakistan thanks to that brilliance from Shahid Afridi. Will that count for anything? I don't know. It's a different form of the game. Of course, the question is whether Afridi is going to be fit, and that's something that everyone's conscious of. From a Pakistan point of view, they'd love to have his batting at the death of a 20-over innings. His bowling is always so important. And maybe that will be a key factor in determining which way the match goes. But from my perspective, India's batting looks that little bit stronger, and it'll be up against, of course, the Pakistan bowling, which is of the two sides the stronger suit for Pakistan. So it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out in that regard, because I think really and truly it'll come down to how India bats against Pakistan's bowlers.
Right, and the one thing a lot of people have said is that Pakistani batting, and you have just mentioned that, is quite brittle on the top. But are you excited about anything in the Pakistani batting lineup at the moment, or would you say they're just it's the bowlers who will do the job?
I really do feel it's the bowlers who do the job for Pakistan. I mean, Hamid Hafiz has been in pretty good form in the shorter form of the shortest form of the game. We saw him play particularly well in the UAE either side of the new year against Sri Lanka. He looked back to his best in 2020 cricket. And I don't think he's got an awful lot to worry about in terms of the Indian attack. I always like the look of the Pakistan lineup because I think they're so well balanced. Hafiz himself, he's a genuine all-rounder. You've got Afridi as well. They've got crackerjack pace bowlers as well. There's no Mohamed Irfan, of course. He's absent, but you could argue that he's a little bit of a liability in the field, I suppose. So I just fancy Pakistan's bowlers to be really effective, and the key is how India's top order plays against those bowlers. Interestingly enough, of course, the whole the match will take place in Dhaka, and in the one match that's been played there so far, we've seen the ball turn prodigiously. Bangladesh absolutely routed Afghanistan, and of course, when you throw in Afridi if he's fit, you throw inside Ajmal, you throw in Mohamed Hafiz as well. Perhaps they might even look to play Zulfikar Babar's in the squad as well. So they've got lots of spinning options, Pakistan. So if the pitch is going to offer turn or hints at offering turn, then they're well covered. The interesting thing where I've been, of course, in Chittagong, and to an extent in Sylhet as well, has been the dew. Now, is there going to be dew in Dhaka? Because if there is going to be dew, it's a day-night game, and that will mitigate against the spinners to a certain extent. So there are a lot of imponderables, but I really do like the look of that spin attack for Pakistan. It's got variety. There's left armers, there's off spinners, orthodox and unorthodox, and there's the leg spin of Afridi as well. And I think an awful lot really depends on Virat Kohli and how he plays. I mean, he's one of my favourite players in the world at the moment. He's such a quality player, and if Pakistan can get him early, then psychologically I think that will have an enormous benefit as far as the outcome of the match is concerned.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for your time. And just before you go, do you think the Indian, the Pakistani fielding is going to be a factor here because they seem to be a bit lapse or lax in that department?
Well, I guess it's always a question that's posed against Pakistan, isn't it? It seems perennially that people say, "Oh, Pakistan's fielding, there's a question mark against it." But let's look at the facts, and the facts are these: that Pakistan in 2007 got to the final. In 2009, they won the ICC World 2020. In 2010, they would have got to the final, but for the brilliance of Mike Hussey in that semi-final in St. Lucia.
Right.
And then in 2012, they got to the semi-finals as well. So they've never gone any worse than the semi-finals in the ICC World 2020. And that despite the fact that everyone always points the finger and says, "Oh, look, Pakistan's fielding's weak. Pakistan's fielding's weak." Well, let's just look at the facts. And the facts are that consistently Pakistan have performed extremely well in the shortest form of the game. So you can say what you like about the fielding, but at the end of the day, they've belied that by performing really well in every single tournament, and I can't see this one's going to be any different at all.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. That's excellent, and have a safe journey, mate. And I will talk to you when you're in Dubai.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Emmett.
Thanks a lot. Bye.